The aircraft carrier USS Gerald R. Ford, the most advanced and expensive warship in the U.S. Navy, is a technological marvel carrying 90 aircraft and equipped with a nuclear power plant. However, its $13 billion price tag and susceptibility to modern anti-access/area denial, (AD) systems, particularly from China, raise concerns about its effectiveness in future conflicts. Critics argue that the U.S. should invest in smaller, stealthier, and faster platforms like submarines, drones, hypersonic missiles, and space-based weapons instead of relying on expensive carriers that are increasingly vulnerable to modern threats. USS Gerald R. Ford, a $13 billion marvel facing modern warfare obsolescence. It's one of the most beautiful, technologically sophisticated weapons platform ever devised by man, carrying a whopping 90 fixed-wing aircraft, including the Boeing F/A-18E/F Super Hornet, the Boeing EA-18G Growler, the Grumman C-2 Greyhound, the Northrop Grumman E-2 Hawkeye, Lockheed Martin F-35 Lightning II fighter craft, as well as an assortment of helicopters, as well as unmanned vehicles. The USS Gerald R. Ford, the first of its class, is a modern marvel. The Leviathan can carry a crew complement of more than 4,500 people. It has a nuclear power plant that can allow for the ship to enjoy extended deployments. And when compared to older models of the U.S. Navy's ubiquitous aircraft carriers, the Ford-class aircraft carrier has a far stealthier cross-section, allowing for it to operate for longer periods of time in a contested battle space. The downside is the cost and time it takes to build or even repair the Ford-class carrier. The Ford-class costs around $13 billion to build. From there, it will cost around $700 million just to maintain a single Ford-class carrier. Although, according to U.S. Navy Captain Brian Metcalf, future versions of the Ford-class carrier are slated to cost $5 billion less than the prototype. The U.S. Gerald R. Ford cost, at least according to Metcalf. Nevertheless, this is the most expensive warship in the U.S. Navy's fleet. The total cost for the Ford-class program is around $120 billion. At a time when the U.S. military is subject to increasing public and political skepticism about the cost of its operations, with multiple new threats arising around the world to strain and drain the U.S. military, the staggering level of money being thrown at a single weapon system, like the Ford-class carrier, demands reappraisal. Yes, it's an incredible weapon. No, it is not the weapon we need for today's, or even tomorrow's, battle. In the age of the anti-access/area denial, (AD) strategy that America's rivals have readily embraced, the $13 billion Ford-class carriers are, if you'll pardon the expression, a sub-cost for the U.S. Navy. For the first time in years, the U.S. Navy is no longer the largest naval force in the world. That distinction belongs to China. Now, defenders of the U.S. Navy will rightly acknowledge that China merely favors quantity over quality. But, as the communists so often remind us, quantity has a quality of its own. What's more, these were the same arguments that the British Royal Navy made when, in the 1940s, the U.S. Navy surpassed them in size. The AD systems that China, Russia, and a bevy of other U.S. rivals, both state actors and non-state actors alike, are significantly cheaper than the Ford class, and can basically render the Ford class combat ineffective. That's to say nothing of the fact that no other Ford class exists, or that it will take at least 5 years to build. It took 12 years for the Gerald R. Ford to be built. Therefore, the risk of losing the Ford in combat to one of China's numerous anti-ship missiles is far greater than whatever benefits in terms of offensive capabilities against a rival nation-state like China the Ford class offers. What's needed in today's conflicts, and tomorrow's, will be smaller, speedier, and stealthier warships. A greater emphasis on submarines will be needed rather than unwieldy and expensive legacy systems, like the aircraft carrier. Submarines could also be outfitted with drones that could be launched from the missile launches on submarines to augment maritime-based aircraft capabilities. Beyond that, the U.S. military needs to spend the money it has been spending on cumbersome aircraft carriers, instead on hypersonic missiles and space-based weapons. The bottom line is that, as amazing and beautiful as the new Ford-class aircraft carriers are, they are not worth the money that's been invested. This is especially so simply because modern warfare has changed and has effectively made these elephantine weapons platforms obsolete.